I'm Danielle. 5 months have passed since that fateful Saturday morning when I walked away from the life I was supposed to embrace. It was a moment that changed everything, a turning point that led me to a newfound sense of freedom and happiness. As I sit here in my new, smaller apartment, surrounded by the quiet and simplicity that I've come to cherish, I can't help but reflect on the journey that brought me here. It all started with a seemingly perfect relationship, a love story that everyone around me assumed was destined to end in a beautiful wedding. I was engaged to Ryan, a man I thought I knew inside out. We had been together for 5 years, and for 8 months, we had been planning our dream wedding. Just 6 weeks away from the big day, it seemed like everything was falling into place. But little did I know that beneath the surface, a storm was brewing. About 4 months ago, right after we sent out the wedding invitations, Ryan started to change. At first, it was subtle. He became more particular about every decision, from the flowers to the music to the seating chart. I didn't think much of it at the time. I told myself that weddings are stressful, and it was just his way of dealing with the pressure. But as the weeks went by, his controlling behavior started to escalate. He began to dictate what I wore on weekends, where I went after work, and who I talked to on the phone. He made comments about my friends, saying that some of them were bad influences and that others didn't really support our relationship. My sister, who had always been a big part of my life, suddenly became too involved. And my job, which I loved, became a distraction. He would call me at lunchtime, asking me what I was eating, who I was with, and why I hadn't mentioned that I was going out. He even checked my phone location once and asked me why I had taken a different route home. At first, I laughed it off, thinking that he was just anxious. I told myself that once the wedding was over, once the pressure lifted, we would go back to normal. But things didn't go back to normal. They got worse. The breaking point came on a Saturday afternoon. We were supposed to have lunch with his parents to finalize the wedding details, but I was exhausted. I had been working late for weeks, trying to finish a major project before the wedding so that I could actually enjoy our honeymoon without any deadlines hanging over my head. I had only been getting 4 hours of sleep a night for 2 weeks straight, and by Saturday morning, I was barely functioning. When my alarm went off at 9:02 a.m. I turned to Ryan and told him that I needed to skip lunch. Just this once. I was so tired, I could barely keep my eyes open. I told him that we could reschedule, but he wouldn't listen. He was in the bathroom doing his hair, and when I told him, he stopped mid-motion and met my eyes through the mirror. "You're not skipping," he said flatly. "My parents are expecting you." "I know," I said. "But I'm running on fumes. They'll understand." He turned around slowly. "No, you're coming." "Is my health not important?" I asked. "I'm barely functioning." That's when he stepped closer. His voice dropped, and he said, "If you don't do what I say, the wedding is cancelled." I stared at him, really looked at him. And suddenly, everything snapped into focus. This wasn't about lunch. This wasn't about his parents. This was about power. About testing how far he could push me. About seeing whether I'd bend even when it hurt. And something inside me didn't break. It clicked. I realized that if I gave in now, it would never stop. Today it was lunch. Tomorrow it would be where we lived. Then my job, my friends, my life. I smiled calmly, quietly. "Consider it cancelled," I said. His face drained of color. "What?" he asked. "You heard me," I said. "If that's how you handle disagreements, we're done." "You don't mean that," he said quickly. "You're just tired." "I absolutely mean it," I replied. "I'm tired of being controlled." He reached for my arm. "Wait, let's talk." I pulled away, grabbed my keys, and walked out. I didn't have a plan when I left. I just knew that I couldn't stay there anymore. I drove on autopilot, past the grocery store we always went to, past the park where Ryan used to jog, past the intersection where we'd argued once about where to put the Christmas tree. Everything looked the same, but my life felt like it had split down the middle. 20 minutes later, I found myself in a diner parking lot. It was a place bright enough to make me feel less alone, public enough to keep me safe, ordinary enough to keep me from unraveling. I slid into a booth by the window, and a waitress brought me coffee that I didn't drink. My hands were shaking, not with fear exactly, but with that dangerous kind of adrenaline that comes right after you do something irreversible. 5 years, 8 months engaged, and I had just ended it because of lunch plans. But it wasn't really about lunch. It was about every controlling moment I had swallowed and called stress. Every time he had made me doubt myself and then smirked like my doubt proved him right. Every time he had framed his demands as love. My phone buzzed. One text, then another, then it started to ring. Ryan. I stared at his name on the screen and didn't answer. Instead, I did the one thing I had been putting off for weeks, the thing my instincts had been screaming for. I called my lawyer, Ethan. Ethan was a friend from college. He specialized in family law, dealing with divorces, custody disputes, and protective orders. He had seen it all, and I knew that he would be able to help me. He picked up on the second ring. Danielle, he said. Everything okay? No, I said. My voice surprised me. It sounded steady, too steady, like it belonged to someone else. I need help. Can you meet me today? It's urgent. There was a pause. Then Ethan's tone shifted. That professional calm that makes you feel like the ground is finally solid under your feet. What happened? I ended my engagement, I said. And I need to protect myself legally, financially. Another pause, shorter this time. Come to my office, he said. I'll meet you there in an hour. When I arrived, Ethan already had coffee waiting and a legal pad full of notes like he'd been expecting this call for years. He didn't waste time on sympathy. He asked me direct questions. When did the control start? Any threats, any financial entanglements? Do we share accounts? Have I documented anything? I told him everything. The escalation over the last 4 months, the monitoring, the way Ryan had started suggesting I spend less time with my friends, the way he'd scroll through my phone like it was his right. And then I told him the thing I'd been avoiding saying out loud, the thing that had been sitting in my chest like a stone. He opened a credit card, I said quietly, in both our names, without telling me. Ethan's pen froze. He looked up slowly. When? 2 months ago, I swallowed. I found the statements last week. How much? He asked. I exhaled like the number itself could bruise me again. Almost $20,000. Ethan didn't react the way most people do. He didn't gasp, didn't curse. He just wrote it down with the calm precision of someone who's seen this exact story unfold 100 times. What was it for? He asked. Wedding upgrades, I said bitterly. Venue add-ons, designer alterations, a videographer we didn't need, upgraded catering, stupid things we never agreed on. And he told you what? Ethan asked. He told me he was using his savings, I said. And when I confronted him, he said it didn't matter because it was our wedding and our credit. Like I was being cheap for even asking. Ethan's jaw tightened slightly. Do you have proof? He asked. Statements, emails, I said. I forwarded them to myself. And I have texts where I told him we needed to stick to the budget. He ignored me. Ethan nodded once. Good, he said. That's not just irresponsible, that's potentially fraud. The word landed heavy. Fraud. It made everything feel darker. Not just controlling, but predatory. Ethan leaned forward. Did you sign anything for that card? He asked. No, I said. I never authorized it. Okay, he said. Then we move like he's dangerous. Because he is. My throat tightened. Ethan slid a paper toward me. First, he said, you're not going back to the apartment alone. Second, you don't respond to him. Third, you document everything. And fourth, he tapped the paper with his pen, we draft an exit so clean it leaves him nothing to twist. We spent 3 hours working. Ethan drafted a formal termination of the engagement, a financial separation agreement stating I was not responsible for any debts incurred without my explicit consent, a demand for a full accounting of wedding deposits and payments, a cease and contact warning letter ready to escalate if Ryan harassed me, and instructions for documenting every message, voicemail, and attempt to contact me. It was surreal watching my relationship get reduced to legal language. But it was also relieving because for the first time in months, I wasn't trying to negotiate with someone who kept moving the goalposts. I was drawing a line in ink. By the time I left Ethan's office, it was evening. He handed me a thick envelope already labeled and sealed. This goes to him Monday morning, he said. Courier delivery, signature confirmation. We want proof he received it. I nodded, my brain strangely calm. What do I do tonight? I asked. Ethan's gaze softened. You sleep, he said. And you don't go home. I checked into a hotel that night. Nothing fancy, just clean sheets, a lock on the door, and a quiet that felt unfamiliar. I turned off my phone, ordered room service I barely tasted. I took a long, scalding shower that felt like I was trying to wash the last 4 months off my skin. And when I finally laid down, I slept 12 hours. No nightmares, no waking up to his voice, no flinching at notifications, just darkness, just silence, just rest. Sunday morning, I turned my phone back on. The screen lit up like a bomb. 83 missed calls, over 100 text messages, all from Ryan. I scrolled through them, and the progression was exactly what Ethan would have predicted. First apologetic. I didn't mean it. Please come home. We need to talk. Then confused. Where are you? Why aren't you answering? This is childish. Then angry. You're being ridiculous. Grow up and come back. You're ruining everything. Then desperate. I love you. Don't throw away 5 years. We can fix this. Then manipulative. My mom thinks you're having a breakdown. Do you need help? And finally, the part that made my blood go cold. Threatening. If you don't come back by tonight, you'll regret this. I'll make sure everyone knows what you did. You abandoned me. I didn't respond. I took screenshots of every threat, every implication, every shift from love to punishment. And I forwarded them to Ethan with 2 words. Add these. Ethan replied almost immediately. Good. This strengthens your file. Do not engage. Monday morning, I arranged the courier. I watched the tracking like it was a countdown. At 10:47 a.m. The courier texted, package delivered and signed for. I didn't even have time to exhale. At 10:52 a.m. My phone started ringing. Ryan. I declined. He called again. Declined again and again. 16 calls in 10 minutes. Then the voicemail notifications began to stack like bricks. I didn't listen yet. I didn't have to because I already knew. When someone like Ryan loses control, he doesn't suddenly become understanding. He becomes louder. He becomes crueler. He becomes desperate enough to burn everything down as long as he gets to watch you choke on the smoke. And I was sitting on the edge of a hotel bed staring at my phone, realizing something that made my stomach drop. The ultimatum he gave me was never meant to be a choice. It was meant to be a leash. I listened to the voicemails that night, not because I wanted to, but because Ethan told me I needed to document everything. And documentation meant knowing exactly what I was dealing with. The first message was disbelief wrapped in rage. "What is this?" Ryan demanded. "You can't be serious. Call me back right now." The next was sharper. "This is insane. We're getting married in 6 weeks. You don't get to just walk away like this." Then came the pivot, the familiar one. "If you think I'm signing anything, you're out of your mind. My lawyer is going to destroy you." The word destroy echoed long after the message ended. I saved every voicemail and forwarded them to Ethan. By noon the next day, the calls weren't just from Ryan anymore. His mother, his father, his sister, friends I hadn't spoken to in months. They all left messages that sounded eerily rehearsed. "He's devastated. You're overreacting. Relationships take work. You need to fix this." I didn't answer any of them. At 2 p.m. Ethan called. "He contacted your office," he said. Screaming, threatening to sue everyone in the building. I closed my eyes and told him, "If he contacts me again without representation, I'm filing a harassment complaint." Ethan said calmly, "He's panicking." "Good." There was a pause. "He knows he's exposed," Ethan continued. "That credit card has him scared. He thought you'd cave before it mattered." I hung up, feeling something unfamiliar. Not guilt, relief. That evening, someone started pounding on my hotel door hard. Relentless. I froze. Checked the peephole. "Ryan. I know you're in there," he yelled. "Open the door. We need to talk." My heart slammed into my ribs. I didn't respond. I picked up the phone and called the front desk. "There's someone banging on my door," I said quietly. "I need security." They arrived within minutes. I heard raised voices in the hallway. Ryan crying, pleading, then shouting. Security told him to leave or they'd call the police. He left. I filed a police report anyway. Paper trail. Ethan had drilled it into me. "Patterns matter," he'd said. "And you're already seeing one." The next few days were chaos. Ryan tried contacting me everywhere. Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. I blocked him. He made new accounts. Blocked those, too. Emails started coming in. Long rambling messages swinging wildly between apology and blame. I set up a filter. Everything from him went into a folder labeled evidence. I didn't read them. He started reaching out to mutual friends. Some of them called me confused. "He doesn't understand what happened," one said. "He says you blindsided him." I told them the truth. Not emotionally, factually. I showed a few of them screenshots, the threats, the financial statements, the timeline. Most backed off immediately. A few didn't. A few said I was being harsh. I cut them out. Then about a week after the envelope was delivered, Ethan forwarded me a letter. It was from Ryan's lawyer. They claimed I was liable for half the wedding expenses, including the credit card charges, because we were engaged and had a verbal agreement to share costs. Ethan didn't even blink. He responded with copies of the credit card statements showing unauthorized charges. Screenshots of texts where I'd explicitly stated budget limits, a timeline showing Ryan opened the card without my consent. Their lawyer went silent. A few days later, Ryan started posting on social media. Nothing direct, just vague, passive-aggressive posts. When you realize the person you loved was never who they said they were. Sometimes the trash takes itself out. His friends flooded the comments with support. People I barely knew reached out asking what happened. I didn't respond publicly, but privately the truth started spreading. Not as drama, as pattern. And patterns don't stay hidden forever. 2 weeks after the breakup, I got a message from someone I didn't know, a woman named Lily. She said she'd been engaged to Ryan's older brother 2 years ago. She wanted to talk. We spoke on the phone that night. Her story made my skin crawl. Everything had been fine until Ryan got involved. He kept telling her fiancé that she wasn't right for the family, that he was settling, that she was holding him back. The engagement fell apart. He isolated her, controlled conversations, made her feel unstable. She thought she was losing her mind. My chest tightened. The ultimatums, the monitoring, the financial manipulation. It was all there. He has a pattern, Lily said quietly. I just wanted you to know you're not crazy. After we hung up, I sat in silence. This wasn't wedding stress. This wasn't a phase. This was who Ryan was. 3 weeks after I walked out, Ryan finally signed the financial separation agreement. His lawyer advised him he had no choice. The debt was in his name. The charges were unauthorized. He was liable. The signed documents arrived through Ethan's office. No note, no apology, just a signature. But separately, he sent a handwritten letter. I read it once. You destroyed everything. You threw away 5 years because you couldn't handle one fight. You're a coward. You'll regret this forever. I felt nothing. I threw it away. That same week, Ryan officially called off the wedding. He sent messages to the guests blaming me, saying I'd abandoned him. Some people believed him. Most didn't, especially after friends started quietly sharing their own experiences. His jealousy, his temper, his need for control. A few days later, his father called. He wanted to meet. I agreed on one condition. Public place with my lawyer present. We met at a coffee shop. He looked exhausted. I owe you an apology.